Shabbat Shalom. Mazal Tov to Mishpachat Weiss, to the Weiss family on this wonderful Shabbat. Nice to have the occasion to celebrate with all of you. And Yasher Koach, Mazal Tov as well, to Avi and to Sarah on their anniversary, to Aaron on his bar mitzvah anniversary. And it's nice to be together at a time where we need to gather. For me, community is built in many different ways, and one of the best ways is in that in-between time. I used to say, my dad as a congregational rabbi would say, you're always in the hall running around. You're not in shul. I'm like, but I'm here. I'm running. It's like, but you're not picking up Torah. I'm like, I'm picking up the Torah of the running around in the hallway. Sometimes the in-between moments that actually can connect us more deeply. And I've been long a believer in things like Jewish summer camp as an amazing way to connect. Being outdoors changes things. Being on a trip with someone changes your ability to connect with them. And I'm going to make my last big push this morning for our first ever multi-generational community-wide Temple Emunah retreat at Camp Ramah, May 2nd through the 4th. May 2nd through the 4th. We have a few more spots available, and we have room for some families. So if you have some kids you want to bring along, thanks to a donor, we have a big discount if you'd like to come as a family, be a part of this, and enjoy. And kids are like, I don't want to go with my parents. You can stay in a separate place away from your parents and have your own program and your own meals, and it's good. Anyway, speak to me or to Mayor at Kiddush so we can hold a spot for you. I think over the years, those retreats or trips we've organized, I'm thinking Minyan Katan, our group has organized amazing retreats thanks to Terry, trips to Barbados, we did a great one to New York City a bunch of years ago. And I've been doing these larger trips to Israel, and they're great. By the way, we have one to Israel, Patriots Week in a year. When is Patriots Week? In 13 months, 12 months from now, will be our next Israel trip. I'd love to know if you're interested so we can design the itinerary around what you're looking for. And we are doing a trip to Central Europe, probably in 2028. So if you're interested in that, let me know. Now, some of you know we've been planning for years a trip to Portugal, Spain, and Morocco, and we're planning on going this fall. It's sold out. Very excited. The tour company in Spain was a little disappointed because they asked me, they said, you, of course, have been to Spain. I said, sí. Then I realized I said the wrong one. It's not sí. I'd never been to Spain, and the tour company was very upset. He said, how can you lead this trip if you've never been to Spain? And they were very generous. They said, just come over here. We'll take care of everything you need. We'll give you an amazing experience. And so a couple of weeks ago, I had that experience of going around Spain and seeing a fascinating history. Not all good, right? There was times we had a good time in Spain, and there were some bad times. And so when they asked me, go. I said, fine, if you insist, I'll go. And it was a center of Jewish life from around the year 1900 to 1300 on and off. And it was a very powerful history. And so those of you who are coming with me, going on your own, whatever, it's incredibly to see. And I connected with the now Jewish community. Don't forget, for 500 years, there's been almost no Jews or just Jews in hiding in Spain. And now there's 30,000 Jews in the whole country. And about 14,000 were in Madrid, and I spent Shabbat with some of them and got to see a little bit of the community they're rebuilding. It was very moving, and I'll share a little bit more about that in the coming time. One evening, my wife and I were walking just kind of at night down Central Street in Granada, and we passed a t-shirt store. It had all these really interesting and funny t-shirts, so we walked in. And then we saw one that was actually quite disturbing. It was a picture of the Grand Inquisitor. Now, the Grand Inquisitor not only if you know Mel Brooks, but was Thomas de Torquemada, who in 1492 was given the role by the church and the government to do what? Get rid of the Jews. He would literally torture them, burn them at the stake. He forcibly converted about 50,000 Jews, and he took about another, that was 50,000, I think, and then 40,000 who he deported and expelled from the country. Now, seeing this t-shirt, which was like the Grand Inquisitor with like a picture of Darth Vader inside, didn't feel funny. And the truth is that we had already seen these little tchotchkes of Grand Inquisitors being sold in stores. And you're like walking up for like a pin that says, I love Spain, and there's like your mini Grand Inquisitor. So anytime we went into those stores, we didn't buy anything at all. I really wanted a pair of socks, but I couldn't get it. I decided finally in this t-shirt store to ask the salesperson about what was going on here. And since no hablo español, I took out my phone and started speaking into Google Translate and having it then speak, and she would speak in Spanish back and forth. It went like this. Didn't work perfectly. Why do you have this shirt? We are selling it. Right, but why? Because it's on the rack. No. But why this shirt? Isn't it offensive? And the salesperson, wasn't getting it. Why? And finally she said, no, it's like an Easter joke. And I wasn't blaming her at all. There was just no awareness that this could even be a problem. Given the blood libels, the violence, the pogroms that took place in Europe around Easter and Passover, I was struggling to find any humor. Now, walking through these beautiful Spanish cities and towns with their rich Jewish history, I was struck, though, over and over again by the fact that there weren't any Jews. That Jews had been simply taken off the streets, forced to flee, or hide their Jewishness. Now, arriving back in Boston a week and a half ago, I watched the 2-minute video that probably many of you have seen of Rumisia Öztürk, a Turkish national and a doctoral student who is here legally on a F1 visa, being taken off the streets by ICE agents. You've seen the video. I'm just curious. Has anyone not seen the video? Okay. All right, fine. I should have asked it the other way. I don't want anyone to feel on the spot. If you haven't seen it, it's 2 minutes. A group of agents kind of walk up to this woman in front of her apartment. They don't show their badges. They say they're police, but they then cover their faces. They handcuff her. They take away her phone. And within 2 minutes, she's put into a plain, unmarked car. They don't tell her why she's being arrested. They don't read her any rights. She doesn't have any rights. If you watch this video, it could look like a kidnapping. And she's taken away to some unknown place, unable to tell friends or family or even a lawyer where she is. Now, eventually we found out that she was accused of supporting Hamas. Just to put all my cards on the table, I am no friend of Hamas. In case it hasn't been clear over the last 550 days, this is one of the most despicable organizations in human history, or certainly that we've seen in many years, certainly to our people. What they did on October 7th, off the charts in terms of evil, still holding our hostages, and they murdered 2 of my dear friends in the 1990s. Still, as far as I can see, this woman wrote an op-ed. This is what I was told is what she did wrong. She wrote it supporting the Palestinian side. I strongly disagreed with what she wrote after I read it. But even if she did write something else even worse, or maybe she is a material supporter of Hamas, which is illegal. and maybe she then would deserve to be deported. How she was arrested is wrong. And that's what I want to call out today. I want to do something a little unorthodox in this sermon this morning, which is I'm going to pause right here and I'm going to go up onto the balcony. We don't have a balcony, and none of the children should ever consider climbing up to the top of the synagogue. But I'm going to stand on the balcony and look down and look at what's happening in this moment. I don't usually do this because I like to teach what does Judaism have to say about a topic. But I actually want us to think about this moment. And what I want to ask is it important for me to call out something that is, at least certainly in my estimation and many others, wrong? Is this an important topic? Is it essential to mention that this arrest is unlawful in shul? Maybe you came to shul to take an escape from all of these illegal arrests that strike fear in our hearts. And you don't want to hear about politics. You came to hear our Shabbat melodies. You came to celebrate smachot, happy occasions. And I hear you. The truth is, I also came for that. I respect everyone here, whatever your positions are, whatever your view on any issue. I'm proud and dedicated to serve as your rabbi. It is by far the greatest honor of my life. That said, sometimes we're going to disagree. But I always listen, and I always take in other viewpoints. And not only do I try to learn from them, but they actually sometimes will modify or change or have me add to what I'm going to say. Now, second, I want to say what I am speaking about today. This is not, as someone said to me, it's not politics. Right? This is actually our current events. This is our reality. We are living in a world where these things are taking place. I want to say third, that the positions that I try to share are not ones that I am like going out here in left field, out of the mainstream. I think as far as I can see, everything I've spoken about over the last 21 years and taken a position on are things that the mainstream Jewish community has taken a position on. Once in a while, those were a little bit more complicated or nuanced, but there's nothing that I said that was outside of that spectrum. Fourth, I want to say that a few people have told me that they come to shul specifically to hear what I have to say about current events. In fact, they're upset when I do not comment on the world as it is. And just a few minutes ago, I learned of something disturbing. I'll call that out. For me, this is a reminder of what we do as a community. I think we can, and I think we should be doing both, right? We should come and daven and read Torah and celebrate and be engaged in this joyful Judaism, which is what we practice. But we can also say, what does the Torah say about what is taking place in the world right now? Those are the two things that we should come here to shul to do. Nourish your soul, but also be thinking about how what's going to happen here goes out into the world. Our tradition considers every human being. I'm off the balcony, I'm back into the floor. I'm welcoming all our junior congregation students. Thank you. Our tradition considers that every human being is created b'tselem Elohim, in the image of God. Which means that every single one of us in this room, and in fact on this planet, 8 billion people, has a spark of the divine. Which means that how we treat every person is a reflection of how we understand the universe and ourselves. If we don't want to be treated poorly, then we better stand up when others are being treated poorly. Now, Ron spoke about the Haftarah, and read it beautifully, and I think I want to take apart a verse of one of the verses of the Torah. God says, Atem Edai, you are my Edim. What is an aid? Witness. It's always a very interesting phrase. You are my witnesses. I remember as a kid, I was like, what are we witnessing? Did something happen? What does it mean to be God's witnesses? Witnesses of what? We are supposed to be able to stop and notice God's presence in the world. Maybe you see it in the beauty and wonder of nature. Maybe you see it in connection to other people. Maybe you see it in a magical moment of song and music. We are supposed to be witnesses to that. To see God's spark in every person, in each of us, in community, and witnesses to God's presence in our Jewish community. But it's even more than that. We are supposed to be witnesses just like in a court case. It's a very serious role. If you've ever been a witness in a trial, this is not an insignificant matter. A witness in a trial is sworn in. You have to tell the truth. You're very focused. You're very careful. This is a responsibility. And in Judaism, it was such an intense responsibility that you needed two people to witness something and to go through this process. In a court case, if you see something, in our tradition as well, you have to report on it. If you see a crime, we witness it, we speak out, we tell the truth. And we're called to that moral vision. We tell it to each other and to the world. That's what it means to be God's witnesses. To see each other and to see the world for all of its goodness and for all of its flaws. And when there's a problem, we speak out. When you witness something, you don't just keep it to yourself. As our kids are being taught these days, I think the term is to be an upstander, right? You stand up for what's right. Now, this is not something new in our tradition. There's nothing radical here. It starts with Abraham, our earliest spiritual ancestor. When he's chosen by God, God says, "For I've singled you out." Why? So you can instruct your children and future generations to keep the way of Adonai by doing exactly what is just and right in this world. The Torah goes on to mention in our experience and from our experience being slaves in Egypt, being strangers, 36 times it says, welcome, love, protect, remember how you treat strangers because you were once strangers in another land. As Jews, that's been our whole story. We've been wandering, chased usually. Occasionally we thought we could get a better deal somewhere else, but usually forced out of other countries, wandering from Spain to Portugal to South America to Curacao to the Netherlands, back and around the whole globe. We know what it's like to be chased, to be removed from a place. Start with that kindness that the Torah says. Then go to the prophets. Amos, Micha, Micah, Jeremiah, Isaiah, 2,800 years ago. All of them did something so chutzpahdik. I don't know how to translate that word. Like audacious. They had moral audacity to say, look at the world around us, it's not right. They spoke truth to power, to the kings, to whoever was in charge, and said, this is not right. That prophetic calling happened thousands of years ago. It should happen today. Here's one of the most fascinating things. I looked up the topic of arrests. Sure enough, the Jewish tradition had something to say about arrests. And it builds on the verses in the book of Deuteronomy, which talked about these shotrim, that we were supposed to have these officials that were enforcing the law. And so the Sephardic chief rabbi of Tel Aviv, Rabbi Chaim David Alevi, who passed away, I'm not exactly sure when, he wrote a statement about how you do an arrest. I was like, really? He did. He wrote, quote, Halacha, Jewish law, assures us that no person shall be arrested without cause,
whether for a serious crime or a minor one, such as those related to prices and measures and such things that are greater, and all those who are charged with making arrests are in the realm of judges. He points out that an arrest actually has psychological impact on the one being arrested. And so therefore, think about it. If you're going to arrest someone, and if you do, how you do it. He's sensitive to the fact that there could be all kinds of situations. And then he says, depending on the threat, that's how you arrest. A serious threat, different kind of arrest. This woman, I looked at pictures of her. She didn't seem that threatening. She's not a serious threat. But the arrest isn't meant to be a lawful arrest. The arrest is doing something very specific. It's being done to scare and intimidate us. So we all have to ask the question, as Americans, is this what we want our democracy to become? And I'll end with a final teaching. Officials and governments and religious leaders, as I said, have been coming after us as Jews for centuries, for millennia. And after the Shoah, after the Holocaust, the German Lutheran pastor Martin Niemöller wrote this famous poem that bears being read at this time. First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. First they came for others. Be God's witnesses and speak out. The time has come. Shabbat Shalom.